Welcome to Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, the podcast where nostalgia comes alive. Since July of 2021, Jake and his friends have interviewed professionals in the worlds of acting, directing, writing, puppeteering, and many more. Who will they be chatting with in this week's interview? Find out in this Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show episode.
Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show, where nostalgia comes alive. I'm your host, Jake Deffinbaugh. With me today is our co-hosts, Chris Bixby, Matthew Johnston, and Matt Bingel. How are you guys doing?
We are great.
Great.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Who do we have this week?
What do we have for this week? Well, he's a director who does a lot of things for directing. He directed for Sesame Street between 1995 through 2000. He also directed Barney Friends between 1997 through 2009, as well for Out of the Box, Webber's World, Dr. Seuss, Weezer Town, you name it. And we all talk about those things later on. And here he is, Mr. Steve Feldman. Steve, happy to have you here. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Doing great. Our pleasure to have you.
Happy to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be had. So it's good.
Awesome to hear. So, to kick things off, we know who you are, but for those who don't, would you care to introduce yourself a little bit?
Oh, gee. Okay, my name. Yeah, here I am. My name is Steve Feldman, and I've been a director and mostly of children's programming. I've done a few other things in other genres, but been working with children for a very, very long time. So we'll say about 30 years actually. And you mentioned some of the titles I've worked on as a director for Sesame Street, for Barney, for Lazy Town, recently for BBC for Moon and Me is a new preschool show that's been doing well overseas. It's not as popular here, but it does air here somewhere. So programs like that, you mentioned a few others yourself. So it's my bio is fairly 4 to 6 year olds. So
as you can see, we've got some stuff in our backgrounds too.
Yeah, some Barney VHSs, Barney.
Barney there. Okay.
Yeah. Some Barney tapes back here.
I have one. I just didn't put it on my display, but it wouldn't fit. But here it is. So
that was one of my favorites. Wow.
Yes. One I used to have.
Yes. Love that one.
Great video.
Love that one.
Yeah, it's an incredible how these things still show up in your life. But I just saw a version of Barney Sing and Dance, which was another video that I think somebody reposted it or somebody posted it about 7 years ago, and it's got 209 million views. And I'm going,
wow,
my goodness.
Oh,
okay. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of fun to see. But at least people are watching it. So
Barney still has a big following.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
definitely.
Wow. Okay.
Definitely. Definitely.
You guys with all your paraphernalia everywhere, I can see it all.
So, what was your background like, and how did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, nice.
And I was an early TV watcher. I was pretty sickly all the time as a kid, so I was often just not necessarily isolated, but I definitely was a TV lover and watcher. So I watched everything possible day and night. But we moved about 7 years later. I mean, I have all sorts of hair-raising stories from my young childhood. I went through the polio epidemic. They thought I had it, and my poor mom was just freaked out by it. But we had all kinds of exciting adventures back there it's back in the 50s. So before any of you were even twinkles in your
my parents weren't even born yet.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
they weren't even a twinkle in your parents' eyes, probably.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But at any rate, so I grew up fairly normal in Boston, and then we moved to Brookline, which is a suburb of Boston is actually right on the line. Boston was trying to annex Brookline and make it part of their inner city limits, but they always fought back, and so that I moved into the town of Brookline, which was at one time the largest township in the country. It was like about 60,000 people, and refused to be called a city. They didn't want to be a city. So, but that's where I went. I went to Brookline High School, and ultimately all of this started when I was in high school, and I had a part-time job as a switchboard operator at WGBH in Boston, the public television. Yeah. And that's where I got interested in a lot of things. I would talk to people all the time, and actually you'd get an opportunity in those days, because there was no unions yet, but you'd get called in to run a camera or something, or they would teach you. So I learned about everything I knew outside of college. I was an education major in college, education and political science. But my whole career was really learned on the go because of my relationship to WGBH. So
Nice. And I'm actually from Massachusetts as well.
Oh, great. Where?
Yeah. Cape Cod.
Oh, that's nice. What part of Cape Cod?
Harwich. Well, yeah, currently I live in Harwich, yeah.
It's nice. I love it there. I miss it. I miss
Yeah.
I miss the whole South Shore and all of the Cape. It's just it was a fun place to spend time as a kid.
Yeah,
So,
it was snowing a lot earlier.
so we can't talk about the beach, I guess, not right now.
Yeah, maybe not right now, but in a couple months maybe.
All right, you can call again. It's okay. It's okay. So that's part of my upbringing.
Nice.
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 Can you talk about what or who inspired you to get into directing? And what was your first directing job?
Well, I yes, I can respond to both of those. I was interning even during college, and actually I eventually quit college so I could spend more time at WGBH. But we had some incredible groups of people, and honestly, there were a whole group of people who inspired me at that time, because that was the time, which you wouldn't be necessarily aware of, that WGBH formed which was called the WGBH Experimental Workshop. And what the call was very interesting. They called artists of all visual media from all over the country, and then actually in certain cases later on all over the world. If they were working in another medium and they had ideas and proposals to experiment with video and television, they came to WGBH. So I met all of these extraordinary artists who were dealing always on the fringe of art. And you run into people like William Wegman and Namjoon Paik, and Namjoon Paik was a conceptual artist who worked with a machine called a video synthesizer, and they brought that over he came over to this country from Korea with a Japanese engineer named Shuya Abe, and they built this machine that would integrate all kinds of modifications to cameras and sound modifications, sound waves, and other kinds of video information. And they would give you an opportunity to integrate it, and it would abstract. You could abstract it, you could control it. This is before we had, which you're all aware of, digital effects.
Right.
Essentially, we're looking at right now in front of us, because all of these little monitors in front of me that show all of you are all byproducts of a digital revolution. But before that, we would go inside cameras and we'd modify the tubes in them. So they would create like a Rorschach image, like this kind of image that mirrors itself, and we could boost the gain so it would be high contrast image. We did all of these things, and a lot of people experimented with them. And Namjoon Paik created all sorts of interesting. If you ever go to I believe the Whitney Museum in New York City still has a permanent exhibit of Nam June Paik there, and he passed away a few years ago. But he was one of my main influences. He was a sweet little guy. He always, when he came into town, he refused to be put up at a hotel. He always liked to stay at the YMCA. You could rent a very cheap room there because he didn't want to be a cost or burden to anyone. And he would come into the studio and he would do his work. And people who came under tutelage with him, people like Ron Hayes and Mark Allen. These are all names that you all know, but they're all people that influenced me. On the conventional side, more conventional side, one of the leaders and founders of the workshop was a director named Fred Barzik. And Fred was just a funny guy who made films. And he was the director, and he had an editor who was also a filmmaker named Dick Bartlett. And these guys were my mentors, and they taught me everything. And I just, whenever possible, or as much as they could handle a teenager, I would get to hang out with them and ask questions and look at their work. And Fred was directing films for he directed a film with Kurt Vonnegut that was done at WGBH. And so we had authors of that ilk and that nature coming through, but all kinds of experimental pieces. I don't know if you've ever seen a guy named William Wegman who he dresses up he has Weimaraners.
Yes.
Dresses them up and photographs them. Well, he came in. I'll never forget. I was sitting at just at the desk at the workshop, and we got this tape in. It was the first time we'd ever heard from him. We got this black and white tape of all these extraordinary scenarios. You can see them online if you just look up William Wegman and Man Ray online.
Yes,
on YouTube, and they are hilarious.
They are, and some of the clips with his dogs were even on Sesame Street for a long time.
Well, they actually did a whole bunch of things special for Sesame Street at one time. William Wegman did. So yeah, this guy was essentially a really fine painter, and he was a photographer, but he wanted to mess around with video. So this was his proposal. He sent us this raw tape that still lasts to this day. You can still see it online. And we'd all looking at it, just, our eyes were popping, and we couldn't believe the sense of humor and how pliable these dogs were, and how human-like they were when they looked at you. It was just a gas to see these things come in. So we saw things like that from all kinds of people. I mean, I can talk like this about this for your whole hour, so I don't want to take up many more time. But there were amazing people that came through there that influenced me and influenced how I think about things and how I think about visual art, particularly. So, and then some other things that still stick. They still stick to this day. So,
of course, definitely.
Sorry for that, but that's okay.
No, that's completely fine.
No worries.
You're fine.
No worries.
Yeah, that's fine. So now, speaking of Sesame Street, how did you kind of begin working on that?
Well, I spent the initial part of my career in North and South Carolina, because I eventually went down there, and at 24 years old, I was hired to be a producer and director for South Carolina Public Television, and really had an amazing time. It was and looking back, it was as good or better than going to film school, because, and I had an interview there, and then I'll get to Sesame Street because it actually leads directly in, and then I had an interview there in South Carolina. And, I was always a very honest kid, but they would ask me questions that I could kind of get away with. So they'd look at me and knowing what they wanted me to do. They asked me, can you direct a nightly news show? And I looked at them and I went, sure, I could do that. Yeah. And they asked me all this, could you write, produce, direct, and edit a children's series every like once a week. And I looked at them again and I said, yeah, I could do that. I'd never done anything like this before, but I felt that I could. And well, it turns out that I was able to, but I learned everything really that you would learn in school during those 2-3 years that I was there. And I had the most incredible time, and incredible experiences. And I love the whole system, because they were a public television system that was really trying to program specifically for their constituents in South Carolina, and they weren't as concerned about doing things for national programming like GBH was. And so it had a real feel of the South. And I was based in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which was right across the border from Charlotte, where I had been originally. And so I spent the rest of my 20s at this place, and finally decided to go back up to Boston for a little bit. But then in Boston, I went directly to New York. And the story there is very funny. I found out I had done some kid stuff, but really nothing with puppets per se. So I sent my reel to Lisa Simon.
Yes.
You know, Lisa passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
she was really, she at the time was, now this is a woman that came up all the way through public television. And I think she was at Sesame Workshop almost the whole time. She did some other things later on as a director. She was a great director. But at the time, she was the executive producer of the show. And I called her up and we talked, and she liked my stuff. And I said, we don't have any openings right now, but call back sometime. And so of course, when you're a young guy and you hear call back sometime, you kind of call back, every other day. So I called her, and finally, she just said to me, "You are the biggest pain in the ass I have ever encountered." I hope that's okay to say. She meant the donkey. She meant the donkey. She said, "You're the biggest pain. Come in tomorrow and we'll meet." She just wanted. So we met. It worked out. And then I was one of 5 directors who were brought in. I actually tutored under, or was tutored by, and we just mirrored him. And it was a very sad situation for me. But Jon Stone who was the original director of Sesame Street, was there, and he had Lou Gehrig's disease. So he was dying while he was still working, but was, getting around all right. And at that particular time, I had just landed a series in New York called Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those clips are also online in places, but at any rate, Bill, that show was just a very, very popular hit show off Comedy Central. And it happened to be Jon Stone's favorite television show. So
oh, wow, interesting.
So I got his favor almost from the beginning, because I was doing something else and I was just trying to make a living. And so I got to know him, and that was very special for me, because he had a very difficult separation ultimately from Sesame Workshop, and he has also passed away many, many years ago. But wonderful guy, brilliant writer and director. He was. I'm in retrospect, because I'm more familiar with his work now even than I was then. He was a very important person for me to meet. So we're still, as you go through this life in television, if you're open, you'll always have mentors. You'll always have people that you really respect, who've done different things and more things than you have. And you're crazy to just pass them off. Cannot do that.
Definitely.
There's always so much to learn. So, so that was how I got on Sesame Street. I survived the cut and made it there. And I remember one of the first other, mentor opportunities I had there was the initial group of directors, which didn't last long. It was cut down to actually just 2 of us later. was and I'm sitting in this directing workshop for puppets that's run by Frank Oz.
Oh my goodness.
So I got to have a 2-hour course with Frank Oz about puppetry and about the some of the insides and outs of this job, and
Which I'm sure to you was like, oh my gosh, like I'm with thee, Frank Oz.
well, I just kind of drilled a quick hole and I just poured it all in. I had to hear it. There wasn't one thing he said that was not a help and is not something I still do to this day.
Wow.
So it's that was an incredible meeting, and I enjoyed that very, very much and learned a lot. So that's actually quite a few of my mentorship, because I wasn't in college, was very, very specific throughout my entire career. The whole time I was meeting people who were doing amazing things that I got to learn from.
Mhm.
And I couldn't have bought that kind of education. I couldn't have bought it, because you just can't get to hang around and ask questions with people like this much in this business until you get into it. So I was able to get it before I was really ensconced in the business.
Nice.
But then from there, everything took off.
Nice, really cool.
Thank you.
Nice.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite Sesame Street Muppet or human character you directed?
Well, he's directing now. Well, one of my favorite human characters is Alan.
Oh
Moore.
yes.
Oh yeah.
He actually came there the same year I started.
Oh nice.
And also Rosita, who's a Hispanic puppeteer and puppet. She also.
Yes.
But I have to say, and I can't imagine if he's ever, I don't know if he's watching this, but if he is, he'll be embarrassed. But there's two people. But my favorite puppet was always Telly Monster.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Marty Robinson is a previous guest of ours.
Well,
Oh,
man,
such
Marty,
a good guy.
I remember one time when I was doing a show with him, I'm looking at Marty and I'm looking at Telly and I'm looking at Marty and I'm looking at Telly and I'm saying, Marty, you seem to have the same worried look on your face that Telly always has. And evidently, I wasn't the first person that had noticed that. So, and I don't know if he made Telly or he advised on it, but he's just one of the great veterans, and he's so amazing. I also worked with him on another puppet show. Actually, I worked with him on Allegra's Window, which was
Oh yes. Really good show, yes.
Mhm.
Also worked with him on The Webulous World of Dr. Seuss, where he played the cat in the hat. And so I had a real opportunity to, and he's another one that I know when I was working with him on Sesame Street early on. I just watch and you learn. You just learn. You learn how to work with people in that kind of situation. You learn that you can actually, as a director, for most of the time, you can actually trust the puppeteers' opinions and ideas about doing the show. That's really quite amazing. It was amazing to me. So I'm still learning. I'm still learning to this day. Still learning to this day, which is why I'm still doing it, I guess. And it's a blast. The other puppeteer who I just thought was a genius was Kevin Clash.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
His performance as Elmo is like no other. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there's nothing like him, and also he was I have to say, and Kevin would probably agree. I learned more from working with Kevin because he consistently had amazing ideas, and I always liked them and always said, okay, let's do that. And so, what I love about directing and puppetry is that it really is one of the more collaborative directing things I've ever done in my life. You really are at the mercy of the puppeteers' opinions. you've got to listen to everybody carefully. What can I do? What can I not do? They for the most part are always telling you the truth. Frank says maybe not always, Frank Oz, but I say most of the time I just listen to what they have to say. And if they can improve the performance of that piece, then that's my job. My job is to listen to everybody and hopefully make it all work together. But but Kevin directs a lot now, so he's a wonderful director, and he's I think he's in California directing a lot of stuff, and he's just it's like that should not be a difficult thing for him to do. He's just filled with ideas all the time.
Yeah.
And love his work, and always did.
And he's doing great. He worked on the Fraggle Rock reboot too. Yeah.
Back to Rock.
Another guy who I met when he was 21. What's his name? John Tartaglia.
Yeah, John Tartaglia. Yeah.
Well, he's fabulous, and he is so. He's still a very young man, but he is so filled with creativity as a director he comes from a theater background, and he loves theater and he loves music, so he's just filled with incredible ideas and visions, and there's somebody I really, really would love to work with again, because he was very young. He was an assistant puppeteer when I worked with him.
Right.
And, but he also had just an incredible sparkle all the time in his performances and in his ideas, and I just think he's great. Just really amazing, actually. So it's another one, but he's also spends a lot of time out on the West Coast. He was in New York pretty consistently, but I think he's in LA now all the time, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and he went from that to doing Avenue Q, and then to starring in Johnny and the Sprites. He's a very, very talented guy.
Extremely talented. So there's so many people, and I was fortunate to be there about 8 years, and I had a great time, and still miss it after all this time. So it's an extraordinary group of people. There is no other group of people that I would rather work with than Sesame Street. They are no offense, all of you other guys, but this was a different kind of environment, and and you were always touched with the veterans, but the gentleman who also passed away more recently, played the Count.
Jerry Nelson.
Was amazing sense of humor. And these people were people like, they would always ask me, why do you hang around during break in the puppet suite? That's where all the puppeteers hang out. I said, well, it's fun. So I just go there and soak in it and pay attention, and it was just fun. It was really fun.
Yeah.
So Jerry was great, and Carol Spinney was wonderful. And
I am Bob McGrath, Emilio Delgado.
Oh yeah. Bob McGrath was just one of the sweetest men. But Alan was one of my favorites because I think part of it is that he came in the same year I did, and I've watched him, and now he's a fabulous director now. And I just saw him. I went up to see, Jennifer Bartlett.
Yes.
Or Bart. That's the
Barnhart.
Jennifer Barnhart.
Jennifer did a cabaret show.
Oh wow!
And I came up to see her perform it up in New York, and she was using. I think she got permission to use some of the puppets from Between the Lions, which shows.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I saw a picture of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Alan directed her show, so he was there, and it was great to see Alan. This was like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, something like that. 3 maybe. Like the pandemic kind of erased a couple of years for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they worked together a lot. And there's people that I've never worked with too that I wish I had the opportunity to, and we'll see. Never say never. Maybe someday we will. So, okay, I'm off topic. What were we talking about?
Like just favorite like Muppets and human characters you directed. But yeah, those are great. Love Telly and Alan.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've gone down quite a list. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you've narrowed it down.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to narrow it down, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many wonderful ones. Yeah. Well, they're all wonderful.
they're all wonderful, and they all have
Yeah.
a star in their own way, and they, it was a great experience.
Definitely. Definitely. So now on the subject of favorites, do you have any like favorite episodes or inserts from Sesame Street that you worked on?
Yeah. Gee. Well, my favorite insert was a bizarre segment that I did 7 of, I think, in a couple of days. I don't think I was the only one who did them, but I think I was the first one that did them, and they were called Monster Clubhouse.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, I
Oh my
love
gosh.
Monster
Yes.
Clubhouse.
Yes.
Well,
Monster Clubhouse.
that was certainly one of my Monster Clubhouse. And what we would do with that, if you see, they're in a cardboard set.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Stagehands on the outside of it, who as the puppets were jumping around in it, they were shaking the set. So that was puppeted too. We had it had to feel like a set that was made by either the puppets or kids or something like that. It was very makeshift, and it was so zany crazy that I just put a full episode of it up on my website, and it's just
nice.
it's just wonderful. So, but the most exciting piece that I ever worked on, and for a lot of reasons, and I will go down the list, but the music video I did with R.E.M. was
yes.
Very Happy Monsters.
Yes.
Love that song.
Great song. Great song.
That was my great experience. I mean, we laid down tracks with R.E.M. in the morning, but what was really cool about that, and this is a story that I thought of actually when you were talking about Johnny's involvement with Avenue Q.
Mm-hmm.
But if you guys are very young, but when you go back and look at the original video that was done of Shiny Happy People that R.E.M. did, the video was the lead singer from the lead female singer from the B-52s is featured on that. And I can't remember her name, which is bad. That's bad. But you can find out her name and you can put it across the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But she's the Echo. She was the voice Echo, and she has bright red hair, and she's got such a distinctive voice that I asked the talent people at Sesame Street if we could get her on the video also, and they tried, but she wasn't available, and so she couldn't make it. So then I asked the folks, my producer at Sesame Street, whether or not we could build a redheaded puppet that would literally be the voice also for the song.
Yeah.
So that redheaded puppet was operated by
Kevin.
By Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes, it was operated by
and the
Kevin.
singing is Stephanie Bruce, which actually we got her on previously too.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Another very talented.
Yes.
So
she's amazing.
Here's my story about Stephanie. Stephanie, at that time, was she was an assistant puppeteer, and she would do some of the female characters. But
yeah,
Sesame Street, love it. But sometimes it was a little bit more of a boys' club. There were a lot of male characters, very few female.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Zoe was the first real strong female character. Fran Brill was the puppeteer, and she was fabulous. But Stephanie, everybody knew, had an incredible voice. So she was chosen to voice that puppet.
Yeah, for the song.
Right, for song. So it's a big deal. And I could see that she was not nervous about it, or maybe she was nervous. Did she say she was nervous? I don't know. But because she nailed it. She nailed it to the point where they were looking at her like, what? They were amazed. They were amazed. And I'm listening to her and I'm going, yeah, well, I think none of us were amazed because we knew that in the vernacular that we knew that Stephanie had pipes, and she just nailed it beautifully, and so later on she went on and was nominated for a Tony for Avenue Q, and I was always thrilled that I got to work with her in that situation. And you know, this was I like to think that this was an amazing opportunity for her when she did that. I don't know. I'll have to ask. I just I've always appreciated that, and I always, you know, whenever I talk to college students, I'll talk about, you know, her as somebody who, you know, was doing one sort of thing. Not that it's any less or more, but this was a big deal. And she comes across and does this, and then all of a sudden, a few years later, she's playing on, you know, in New York in Avenue Q. And I just thought I think it's an amazing story of watching the, you know, and now she's a lead puppeteer on a lot of different things. She does a lot of shows.
Don Quixote, Prairie Donna for Sesame, and
Helpsters.
Oh yeah, Helpsters, yeah.
No, I forgot to mention stuff. I forgot to mention another one of my favorite puppeteers, and that's the guy that did Baby Bear.
David Wellman.
David is so smart, and I know he and his brother do Don Quixote, and I can see, and David directs it, so you can see his whole and but he did Baby Bear. We did the most amazing things. Baby Bear was always paired up with Telly, so you have there two of my favorite puppeteers, and boy, they did stuff. I have an outtake of one of their riffs it's actually on my it's deeply hidden on my Vimeo website, but it's there.
Wow.
So
nice. I'd have to check that out. Yeah.
Anyone.
Yeah, David Wellman, he's awesome. Jock's Big Music Show. Bunnytown.
Bunnytown. A lot of great shows.
He's just what a sense of humor. I mean, he used to do
Hero Guy. Oh yeah, that too.
Hero Guy, yeah.
He would do these. I had another segment that I got to do, which was a conversation between Baby Bear, and Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah. You know Whoopi Goldberg?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right, definitely.
And she's been on Sesame Street a couple times.
Oh, she did a lot of things. She did a lot of things with Kevin used to bring her on a lot, but then she did this whole thing that I had her in with Baby Bear that was just priceless. And they're talking about emotions, and it was very funny. And what I liked about David is that he would come up with these things that were, you know, and this is one of the strengths of Sesame Street, certainly Sesame Street more past, but they would do things on a couple of levels. You know, they would do a few lines, they'd ad-lib lines that were maybe above the heads of the children, but would reach the parents. And I'll never forget, David did this thing where he's angry, and Whoopi is trying to talk to him about being angry, and she keeps building on his anger, and then David blurts out, "Well, I was feeling residual anger," and we're all looking at each other in the scroll room going, "No one's going to understand that, but it's funny." So we let it didn't get cut. It's like residual anger, which I don't even know what it is, but it's and he would throw out stuff like this all the time. Really, really funny guy. funny
Yeah.
guy. So,
Yes.
One of my favorite Sesame episodes that you directed was the episode where Telly finds out that his hamster is having babies.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes, which we actually
funny
watched that
one.
episode early before this interview. So
Yeah.
gee,
amazing episode.
I have a real clear recollection of some of that. But I remember, it's really interesting. You remember your first episode and then you remember segments.
Yeah.
Turn the interview
Yeah.
around. What do you appreciate about that? Curious.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because like, Telly because Telly's hamster he thinks like, oh, he's a boy and he's having babies, and then like Gina had to assure him that his hamster is a girl.
A girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Telly
The-
starts like freaking out
Freaking
about
out and
Yeah.
in his Telly fashion.
yeah.
The interviewer has become the interviewee.
Yes.
I worked a lot with Marty and always appreciated working with him and because Baby Bear was his best friend, I ended up doing a lot of my segments with them. But they're just incredible. They're just wild, creative people who are, and I'm just gonna, who are just extraordinarily smart. They're smart at their craft. Their timing is brilliant, and they're just funny guys. I mean, one of the really funny things that the public never gets to see about puppeteers is when they're sitting there with their hands up on the floor or something, and you just look at the shot of all the folks underneath them, and they're already plotting something that they're going to do,
Yeah.
and it's just an extraordinarily funny situation.
Yeah, and Telly and Baby Bear don't really get used a lot these days. It would be nice to see them get
Yeah.
used more.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, should have been a spin-off, but a lot of
Yeah.
their characters could have been spin-offs. I mean, the problem right now is that, and this is a more difficult topic, but it's hard to do a puppet show in this country. There's if it's not produced by Sesame Street or produced by Henson,
And it probably won't get picked up.
Yeah.
well, they're not the kind of puppets. I mean, Don Quixote got picked up, but that again came out of Mr. Rogers, and it was developed by David Rudman.
Right.
So and his brother. So it has Sesame Street all over it. And it has Sesame Street puppeteers. I mean, I've worked with Sesame Street puppeteers and other things, also that were off public TV. But that would be a great spin-off show because they had such an interesting, complex relationship. And when you go to my Vimeo reel and look for the outtake, you'll see what I mean. So
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of Gina, we actually did an interview Allison Bartlett, which is amazing.
Oh yeah. Gee, I haven't seen her in ages. So
Yes.
wow.
I'll let her know we spoke to you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because I actually talked to her on Instagram on occasion.
Oh, good. Yeah, let her know. My goodness, it's been so many years since I've seen so many people from the show. Let me get my frame right. That you can throw out names to me right now, and I'll go whoop. But it's, but yeah, they were just. It was a very difficult show to lead because at that particular time I was commuting to the show from LA. And I knew that when I moved to LA, it was going to be difficult to still do the show, but I did it for a couple of years after that, and then that was it. And so I still have second thoughts about leaving because I know we're leaving New York and going to LA because I think it mean that I wasn't really going to do Sesame Street anymore, or I did it for a little bit longer, but not much longer. Of course, they were cutting the show at that point. The show was cutting amount of episodes. When I first started, they used to do like 100 a year, something like that.
Yeah.
And now I think they're back up again, but around the time I left, I think they were only doing 26 a year, if that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So,
Oh.
but yeah, say hello to anybody you run into from that show that I may not remember.
Definitely.
You've also directed a few celebrity appearances on the show. Do you have any favorite celebrity guests that you worked with?
Besides R.E.M, of course, because
Yeah.
that
Well,
number is great.
I will tell you two separate stories. I had three favorites in addition to R.E.M, and they were Diana Krall,
Oh yes.
Renée Fleming, the singer, soprano from the New York City Opera, and Garth Brooks.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
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 That was
Very funny song that he did.
Wonderful
Make
song he did.
music.
Yes.
A great song.
And what was great about that, and I'll start with him, Garth really got the puppets. Some people when they're on there and they're clustered, and actually R.E.M did too. I mean, if you watch the R.E.M video, I asked Jim Martin, who was
Oh.
the monster puppeteers in the background.
Mhm.
I asked him, could you just bug Peter Buck the whole time? He was the guitar. I don't care what it is, just go, I'm so sad.
Yes.
And so with that idea, I just gave him that idea. And if you watch him, we cut in these shots all throughout that are just Jim harassing Peter Bucket. Peter's kind of unassuming. He's kind of still going like this, and but just amazing work there by Jim, and he was just an extraordinary puppeteer. Also, they were all extraordinary. But Garth Brooks was comfortable with puppets, and he was there and just had fun with them all and just followed their lead. And I think we did that song in 2 takes, 3 takes. It was nothing to do.
Wow.
So, wow, the puppeteers were great. It had nothing to do with me. The puppeteers were great, and Garth really figured it out right away. He knew what he was going to do, and he was happy, and he felt real and there. If a kid saw him there, I think if I presume he has children, but if one of his kids ever saw that video, they'd look at Dad and go, "Wow, Dad was really having a good time." And so Garth Brooks has got a UNIVAC memory, because 3 years after I did that video, I walk in with a group of people into Jerry's Deli in Los Angeles to have a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry's Deli was a big meeting place, and I walk by, and they're sitting in the middle of 5 people is Garth Brooks. And I walk by the table, and then all of a sudden I feel his gaze on me. And then I look at him, and he points at me, and I point at him, and he says, "Sesame Street." And my stock went up for this meeting that I was going into. So so that was a fun moment. And he again was so that was a lot of fun. The same kind of note, if you've seen the Renée Fleming piece, I went to the puppeteers afterwards, or before that was over, after the 3rd take, and I asked them at the end of this take what was tricky about this take, and this was the guy that was encouraging me to do it this way was Kevin.
Oh wow.
So if you look at that piece, we've got several puppets. There's at least 20 puppets that are there off and on. And then I think we had about 14 puppeteers, including assistants, and it was mayhem.
Wow.
And at the end of it, I asked them all to just attack the singer.
Yeah.
Not violently, just in a
Oh yeah, but yeah.
A playful way, yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
Correct.
funny.
Yeah.
and so I mentioned it to Kevin, and then he said that's great, and everybody, and I talked to the puppeteers, and everybody was going to do that, and that was just a fantastic piece. And if you notice, there's no camera cuts in it. It was
Mhm.
shot all in one take. So I did.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
that's
I-
crazy.
I had to do 4 takes of it, but 4 takes was pretty good. The third one was
Yeah.
excellent, but I also wanted that last take where they attack her. So that's the one. The fourth and final take is the one that made it to air with Renée Fleming, who was such a trooper. She had so much fun, and that's the one thing about that set. When you come on that set as a celebrity, no matter what you've done, be prepared to have fun if you let yourself. So
Of course, definitely.
now the
For
final story there, and the former music director of Sesame Street at that time was a gentleman named Mike Renzi.
hmm
So Diana Krall was Mike Renzi's former student,
Oh,
and
wow.
so
That's interesting.
he got her on, and she agreed to come in, and she was so nervous and also so sweet. And this was before. Right now she's very accomplished and very confident, but back then she was just happening as a singer. And she did this extraordinary song, and Kevin was there with her with Elmo, and we had a few puppets, but it was all around a piano. It was like a nighttime, speakeasy with a piano there. And Mike Renzi put a band together that was playing live in the background, and she played live piano. So this was all done, and sang live. So this was all done live.
Wow.
So at any rate, she ends up having a great time. It's a really fun song. And she walks
Yeah.
up to me at the end of the thing, and she gives me this huge hug. And she looks at me, and she was serious. She looked at me, she says, "This has been the best time I've ever had in my life."
Aw.
And she said it like that. So it wasn't just, oh, I had a great time. It was one of the best. She didn't, this is the best time I ever had in my life. And I'm looking at her and I'm going, well, keep doing it. And that was it. And that was the end of the shoot. But she was very good. And I always appreciated her vulnerability in that moment to share something like that, because she was so nervous. She got through it beautifully, and she enjoyed herself, which, man, if you're ever working with somebody who's nervous and they walk away enjoying themselves, that was a major event in my life, just to experience that. So I was really appreciative of her even doing the thing, let alone sharing that with me afterwards. It was very encouraging to everybody.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So those are my favorite celebrities. Peter Jennings,
Yes.
big one.
Oh, yeah. There are a lot of good ones.
Yeah, Peter Jennings, I was fascinated with because I used to direct on the floor at Sesame Workshop. At that time, no one did but me. I just asked if I could direct on the floor. It was easier for me. And everybody else was in the control room. But Peter he had a guest slot that he was early for, and he just asked if he could sit next to me and just watch. And he was just flipped out by the process.
Wow.
And he was, in that moment, he was a journalist. He was asking questions, and he was trying to figure out how it all worked, and
Mhm.
everything. And it was really, really fun to just be having a normal conversation with Peter Jennings, who at that time was he was the nighttime ABC anchor. So not the nighttime, I mean the 6 p.m., the evening one, which is the big newscast in those days. So
Yes. Yes.
all sorts of other people, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many
yeah.
wonderful ones. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, still working on puppetry related projects, you also directed a couple episodes of The Wubbulous World of Dr. Seuss. What was that experience like, working with all those beloved Dr. Seuss characters?
Well, it's another, it's just another experience that when you understand what you're doing and you get the opportunity to do something like that with a iconic set of characters, it was fabulous. I mean, you're awestruck. I mean, having Marty doing the Cat in the Hat, actually I knew a lot of the puppeteers, so you're able to kind of get over the awesomeness of it and then just do your job. But I loved it. I love that I was able to do. I didn't work very much on that show, but I was able to do a few things, and I really enjoyed it. And it's not much else to say, but it's even sitting here talking to you guys about people like Elmo and people like
Kim Clash amazing puppeteer too.
We haven't even talked about Barney, which is its own thing, but these are
we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have people your age and younger coming up to me all the time, and they'll say, "Well, gee, who I'm working with," and they'll just say, "Well, you directed our childhood," and I'm looking at them like, "Well, I didn't really." It's a sweet moment, and you appreciate how many people have seen your work, and I think not to segue to
right.
What was ESPN calling me? No, just kidding. Just the idea of recently. You remember I told you about Barney Sing and Dance, and I just okay.
Mm-hmm.
A few years ago, I saw a tape of Barney Sing and Dance, completely dubbed over in Spanish.
Mm.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
That's interesting.
It was well done too, Spanish. It was not, it wasn't just a job like somebody did at home or something.
Mm-hmm.
But and it had like 500 million views.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm looking at that and I'm going, you start to get
That's
a little
crazy.
struck by that it's probably most of those views are all in Latin America.
Yeah.
And another time I had the opportunity to go with a puppeteer down to Mexico to do a workshop for Mexican directors and puppeteers who were doing Plaza Sesamo, the Mexican version of Sesame Street. When you go and you do something like that, you see the reach of what you've done, and even if you've done one segment that's seen millions of views, it's a little bit awesome. I can't even quite understand it, But those are the things that give me the best feelings about my career. I even notice for some reason on my Vimeo site, the most watched segment of it is Allegra's Window.
Oh, wow.
Which I had no sense of when I did it, but it seems that where these people are coming from, and so it's really, I'm really thankful and really grateful actually for this whole thing that allows people to see stuff that's been done by so many people over so many years, and I can imagine how many languages Sesame Street has been illegally overdubbed in, but it's it's just awesome to see people that are still seeing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
There were, all of these people go around, and the woman who was the executive producer of that show, whose name also escapes me at the moment, was a fabulous writer who, I think it's Stephanie Simpson. Does that ring a bell? Maybe not. But just all the people who worked on all these shows were just all amazing because they were able to really understand the audience And that's the key thing, is understanding that you're doing this stuff for kids that are like, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these are small people. These are really small people, and they have very specific needs, and to be able to contribute there has been, I'm very, very grateful for the career I've been given, the opportunities I've had. So
Definitely.
Awesome.
Mhm.
That's awesome. So on Disney, you worked as a director on the series Out of the Box. Do you have any favorite episodes of that show you directed?
not really. I mean, I enjoyed the show, but I only did about 3 episodes on that, 3 or 4 episodes. So I honestly
Really?
don't remember, but I remember the um, I'm trying to remember who was who on that show. I mean, puppeteers. There weren't any puppeteers, but who I'd love to hear how she's doing is Vivian, the woman who was one of the co-leads. The gentleman I actually ran into a few years ago in Nashville.
Oh,
So-
Oh yeah, Tony. Yeah.
Tony,
Tony.
yeah. Yeah, Tony.
Still,
Yeah.
he's still, attempting to have a music career. He still has a beautiful voice, and but it's this business is tough. Viv, I think Viv is off and just doing something else now, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I think Tony and Viv seem to have like a big following on social media too.
Oh my
Well,
gosh, yes.
especially obviously with Out of the Box fans, because they get a lot of comments asking like, "Oh, can you still do the so long or goodbye song?"
Yeah, and Tony actually did, and then Vivian duet, and then fans were
Yeah.
like, "What?" Like it's
Yeah.
all on like TikTok. So
they did they made that song very, very popular. It was
yeah,
they had a manner about them that I don't think anyone's quite matched yet, because they had a wonderful camera presence. I mean, and they sang beautifully together. I remember doing a song with Viv and the Dinosaur Romp, which was a fun song.
Oh yes, I love that song. Yes, that's a good one. It's a great song.
Shot all with was shot all with jib, and it was just fun to do, and so I enjoyed that.
That's a really neat set too. Out of the
yeah,
Box.
Very fun set, and it was not huge, which
Right.
is good.
Yeah.
Because they everything was. I also liked the kids we had cast on that set, on that show. They were smart. They were lack of a better word, they were adorable. It was a different kind of show. It's like we're not doing puppets here. We're working with kids, and it's so it had to have a different kind of thing to go with it, and a different kind of storyline. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a great deal. But again, I was
Yeah.
brought in, I think, to fill in for somebody who was not able to do it. And what's the guy? He actually directs on Sesame Street some now. Is Rick Fernandez, who was a producer.
Oh,
We
got him on
produced
too,
him on too.
Yeah, Rick is directing again, and directing on Sesame Street actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
And but he brought me on to just fill in, and I did 4 episodes or 3 episodes, something like that. And that happens a lot because there were so many shows going on at the same time. That there was always seemed to be an opening to do something, and I had a good time doing that show. Very, very fun show.
Yes. So
yeah, Tony and Vivian, they're awesome.
yeah, so now we mentioned this a couple times earlier, but of course, another one of your biggest jobs as a director was on the long-running Barney franchise. How did it feel getting to direct basically one of the world's most popular children's icons?
Well, it was an interesting experience. I came onto that show quite happenstance. But I think they had done 3 seasons of it, or 2.
Yeah.
And they
I think it might have been 3.
That's three.
Or
I
maybe
think I
two.
Yeah, around the time you came in, yeah.
You guys know more about me than I do. I love that. Leave your names and numbers so next time I need to do an interview, I can just have one of you guys sit.
We're available for hire.
Yes.
Hey, this is the Steve Feldman show, and here's yeah, Barney was weird because I had experienced the same amount of kind of just ridicule that it went under when it first came out. But I always looked at the the notion that all you have to do with Barney, and this is really what I think sent the and I think she talks about it in the documentary. And then the creator of that, she noticed it was originally they did a couple of home videos.
Yeah.
Right.
I was not involved. And Cheryl Leach, sorry.
Cheryl Leach, yeah.
But Cheryl had a very interesting observation at the top of the show, at the beginning. After they did the home video, where they sold a lot of copies, they were trying to figure out what to do next. And I know that when she saw the live show, which was the next thing they did, she could see all of the kids and what they were doing during the live show.
Mhm.
And they were all on their feet dancing and singing along if they knew the lyrics.
Mhm.
And that's when I think in her heart of hearts, now maybe she would say it differently, that's when she really got it. And that's when that would have been a switch, that would have flipped for me too. Because if it's I don't care if you think it's sappy, if you think the acting is poor.
Yeah. The production's not good or whatever. Yeah.
It was weaker at the beginning. It's really changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
The main thing is that all I ever had to do was have in my mind those pictures of those kids dancing while they were watching it.
Mhm.
And also, they started to get videos from people's homes and watching this happening, and you're going, something in my mind, as long as we're not, there's the lessons are very clear. There's nothing wrong with them, but the main thing is that they're moving, and they're singing, and they're having fun. And if that's all I can do in a children's television show, and I said this to myself, I said, I'll take it. I think that's great. And I still believe that. Because when you see kids get up and dance to anything that you've done,
Yeah.
and I've also worked with artists who work in the children's music area. And when you see how kids respond to that, that's all you want to do. That's all you want to do. It's very when a child will do that, and it's is it gonna help them become physicists? No. Is it going to help them become even teachers? No. But that sense of play and fun and imitation and just enjoying themselves, and I just found was priceless. So that was an indoctrination that took me a little bit of time, but I did my research on it to make sure that I had all that information. And I think the only other thing, the first meeting, I remember Jim Rowley, who was one of the, and also directed a significant amount of Barney's later on. But
yeah.
He may have directed some early on too. I'm trying to.
Yeah, he did.
Well, Jim calls me up from Dallas. He called me in New York City where I was living, and he said, we're going to be in New York, and we'd like to talk to you about doing Barney. And I went, oh. and I wasn't that excited about it when I heard it. But you know, my brother taught me years ago that, and I'm going to say it in a very New York way, but he said it a little bit different. But, even when you're happy in your job and you're happy with what you're doing, always take a meeting, because you never know when something might be something you want and you didn't think so, or it might open up to something else. So it's very, very important to always take a meeting, unless it's for just crap that you know is bad. I mean, there are certainly things like that that I turned down meetings for over my career, and that I won't say on me. So don't ask. Okay. At any rate, so I went down to Dallas, and I was given the Barney tour, and they wanted me to do half the episodes. They also wanted me to do a direct to video, and when I did the video, which was it was some kind of there were a lot of different locations. Like we had a castle there, and you have it.
Yep, Adventure Bus. I think that would have been Adventure Bus, would it?
That was another one, but I did Adventure Bus.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh wait, I think I may know.
Was it Once Upon a
Once
Time?
Upon a Time?
Well,
Yeah,
there we go.
amazing.
Another very good one.
That was so. What I was doing at the beginning for them is I did a bunch of direct videos,
Mm-hmm.
5 over over a certain time period, and then it started the series, and it started to grow on me because I was seeing what potential the show had, not only in its own right, but I was really appreciative of some of the people who worked on it. Bob West, who was the voice of Barney.
Yeah.
Patty, yeah. They were such fine actors, and you wouldn't believe the stuff I heard, the ad libs and stuff I heard over the headsets when we weren't rolling. So I felt, I felt, and anyone who works in children's television will tell you that you get a little wacky after a while, and you let loose in different ways. But probably the first one that said that. Hopefully not. But I enjoyed the working environment. The people were great. They upgraded a lot of things over the course of the little in between time when they started up with when I started there, and I just had a blast. I never had a day that that I felt like, oh, this is awful. I will tell you that I always had problems, and I said them from day one. I think most people will probably go nuts, but I didn't like Barney looking at the camera and saying "I love you," because we used to talk about it. Practically, it's a character, it's a puppet person. And although you can have a kind of love that goes out to people who see your work, I didn't like the idea that Barney was actually saying to them, "I love you." I would have preferred...
breaking the fourth wall. Yeah.
Well, I didn't mind the fourth wall. I actually encouraged that, and they used to get angry at me at the beginning. I said I want him to talk to the kids, because I was also a devotee of Fred Rogers. I wanted him to talk to the kids, but the "I love you" is an important phrase, and I think it's important for children to understand what "I love you" means in a real sense. And in a this kind of sense, it trivialized to me. You can all make commentary on that. You can send me hate letters. All of you can. Chris, what's your address? But I would have preferred, and I also thought it would have been more kid-like if he looked at them and said, "I like you,"
Yeah.
That would have been okay. But "I love you" is much deeper emotion, and again, I'm thinking about it too much already. So let's move on. So
all right.
I was there
Yeah.
off and on for a long time. I came back to that show, I went off, did other things. And so I was with that show as long as 15 years.
Wow.
And actually I did a little upgrade on it that is featured on my website. When it was bought by the Hit Entertainment in England, they asked if the people would do an upgrade. They would not do an upgrade of the show, but they would do some segments in a different way.
Hmm.
So I did a few music videos that I concepted differently. In fact, a couple of them didn't even have Barney in them. Because the show was called Barney and Friends, I was even encouraging them, maybe we can make the shows more about the friends.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did these things. I also did this open with them that features Barney on a skateboard.
Oh yeah.
But again, we all knew why they asked for it, because I think we all went at it. So they hired me to direct this refresh, and I was happy to do it, and was able to bring some concepts to it that I'd never been able to bring to it before. Ultimately, they were headed towards discontinuing it.
Yeah.
And it happened. And I don't know if it was any less popular when they discontinued it. I'd have to see the rating sheets and the sales, but I know it's still very popular online. It's crazy.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Every single
Oh, yeah.
episode's on YouTube.
Yeah. So
Every episode, home video.
Every video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything imaginable.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
but I had a great time. Great people. Dallas was a different kind of environment to work in.
Yeah.
Very professional film community and television community, and I had an extraordinary set designer, Bob LaValle.
Yeah.
He's an award-winning theater director down there. He's just amazing. The sets on Barney's song and dance are extraordinary.
Yeah, I have it.
Next time I do one of these, can I dial you in also so you can hold up the things?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was but they were great people. I remember the art department was extraordinary, and all the actors and on the kids that we brought on, and I can't talk about this because I unfortunately missed the Demi Lovato Selena Gomez period. So
Yeah.
I was not there for that, but they were great. They were great. They were actually close friends on the show, and they were close friends outside the show, and they were a trip. They were very good. No one knew, but everybody had a feeling maybe, they were something.
Right.
So.
And they became big Disney Channel stars, and from that they became, huge in the music industry, and still acting too, but music especially, I feel.
I haven't heard much about Demi. About in regards to Barney, but I think that Selena will always wants to talk about it.
She still remembers the words to one of the songs that
Yeah, the Idea Bench song.
It was on a radio show where she couldn't remember some of the lyrics to her song, but she remembered the lyrics to that song.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Well, they were very, very popular. Most of them at that time were public domain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we eventually Bob Phillips, who's the music director and wrote, he would do all the arrangements, I believe. I may be getting
amazing musical arrangements, by the way.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, and he started writing a lot more too. So we were able to do more. And I think they hired a couple of children's music writers who were. There's so many people doing really incredible original children's music. And when you look at the shows and look at the music that's in all these other shows, The Bear in the Big Blue House, and
oh yeah,
Gabba Gabba, which had amazing music. All these places, have worked with a lot of writers over the years, and they're just great,
Yes, definitely.
Well, with so many Barney and Friends episodes and home videos, do you have a favorite that you directed?
Um, yeah, I mean, it would have to be in the home video area. I mean, I think that the home videos, we always had a much bigger budget.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
you got to go more places.
Yeah, and we would do more.
And the sets were bigger, much bigger.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But also
They're phenomenal too.
Barney Sing and Dance. Now remember, this has 26 songs in 55.
27.
27 songs.
A lot of songs.
This is high stress here. Why did you?
It has it on the back, so that's how I knew it.
No, but I didn't remember. So, it's one more thing I didn't remember.
Close enough. One off. That's not a big
Yes.
deal.
But that's an enormous amount of songs, so you know that this is not a heavy drama. This is
Right.
this is the music. So I would say pound for pound, that was my favorite because I love music and I love musicals, and actually Johnny is somebody that I'd be dying to work with. You can tell him I said that, but he's just fantastic, and there's a lot of people that have done great work with music and children, and that's what I would like to be doing now at this late stage of my career, but it's still, things are still happening. So, but I would say definitely that. Well, they're all videos. I mean, I loved I love the Halloween show, which was also direct to video.
Yes.
We did a version
Yeah.
of it as an
Yeah, that was
episode.
cool. Like they decorated like the whole school
Yeah.
Yeah.
set with Halloween decorations.
Yeah.
I want can you send me a copy of this tape? I think it's funny.
Sure.
I love it. It's great.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I get the opportunity to do this. Usually I do a podcast with just one person. So
Yeah.
this one,
With having it with like 4 people is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's much more interesting. You can't get
Yeah.
you're not going to get bogged down in anything. Go ahead.
Mm.
So I would say the Halloween show. I don't think it's the last thing I did, but it was darn near close. But it was another direct-to-video, and it had a character on of Mother Nature.
Oh, that was
What-
Jungle Friends,
Yes,
I think, right?
I think so. Yes,
Jungle
I think
Friends.
so.
Yes.
I think that was it.
And the woman who played Mother Nature was a voiceover actor who was just was an actress in Dallas area, but she had this most amazing voice. And she worked with me on another project for another company later as a voice actor, but she played Mother Nature and she was so wonderful. And it was
Mhm.
shot almost completely in a jungle environment.
Yeah.
And I actually have a photograph that if I can dig it up, if you guys send me somebody's email, or Chris, I can send it to you because I know I have yours.
Yeah.
I have this photograph of me pointing at a monkey that was an extra on the film.
Was it an actual? It was an actual monkey.
It was a real monkey, yeah, real monkey.
Wow.
And so I'm pointing at it, and when I put it online at times, I would just caption it, Steve directing a monkey, and that's what I was pantomiming. I was trying to explain the scene to him, and he was looking at me like, So it was fun. We had a great time on that shoot, and I mean, it was a bear to shoot that thing because we were in creating a dense jungle. We really had a lot of tight environments to shoot and light in. So
Yeah.
really give it a real feel of being in a dense jungle, which was not easy to accomplish, but one of my favorites. That was one
Definitely.
of my So that's enough.
Definitely.
We have so many favorites. Let's start to minimize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Now, do you have a favorite Barney song?
There are also many good ones.
Yes.
Oh, that's never been asked me before. I've never been
Oh
asked.
wow.
Um, um, well, I don't remember the names. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
There was one that had funny words in it, and it was like a march song. That was a public domain song that I'd never heard before as a kid, even. And I can't remember the name of it.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, was it that
Was
one?
that it?
I love that song. Um,
Yeah, I was.
Love
That's
that.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
but the real one that I really liked was a favorite of mine that was in the Halloween show. Um, um, it was called, I think, something like Cold Burr, and it was
Oh,
a
yes.
Oh, Burr, it's cold.
Yes,
Yes,
Birds
that's a
Cold.
good
That
one,
was.
yeah.
I love that song.
fur. I wish it was a bear with furry
With very, very hair.
There,
It's
it's cold.
cold. Yeah,
the
that's a
two
great
girls
song.
were twins. They were twin goods, and they were very talented singers and dancers. So I'm trying to remember if I think Bob Phillips wrote that song. I don't think that was not an old song, but I may be wrong there. But I think he wrote that. So that was definitely one of the top. And then there's a couple of sappy ones that I really like, but I can't remember the names of them. But I really like John Jacob Jingleheimer or whatever it was, because it's so catchy. And we used to cut it fast also.
Right.
So, but I would say definitely those two,
Both great
whenever
ones.
I get, oh, Burr, which I sing that all the time. I sang it to my kids.
Oh, that's funny.
Hated me for it to this day. So it's, um, but yeah, that's it. I mean, there's certainly so many, but there's I'm trying to remember the names of them because they're all so short. That was another unique thing about Barney songs is that we had songs as short as 40 seconds,
Right.
and that was another thing that you got to hand it to them. They got children. They understood that they could do that, and
Mhm.
and unfortunately, I think they eventually caught on with the fourth wall thing that I was always a devotee of long before I came to Barney, is that I really felt that there was something powerful to have the lead character looking at the camera and talking explicitly to the child at home. I don't care if it's
Mhm.
a big big puppet or what it is.
Definitely.
I think that's so important. So
Mhm. Yes.
So similar to directing celebrities on Sesame Street, you direct the Barney episode Howdy Friends, where Riders in the Sky made a guest appearance. What was it like working with them?
oh, I have a really good story about that.
Ooh, I'm
Ooh.
interested.
It's a good episode too.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
we,
it's
we,
really
yeah, we
good
actually
episode.
yeah we actually watched that episode earlier today before the interview too. So
Well,
Yeah.
that was an interesting show, and I'll tell you for several reasons. It was I thought their music was incredible.
Oh yes,
Um,
it really is.
Yeah.
And and what happens is that at the end of a year, a season, they go to the directors and ask them to submit their favorite show, so they can submit them for an Emmy, for the director and also for show. So I submitted that show, and that was
Mhm.
the one that was entered into the Emmy Awards. And although we didn't win, I had a friend who was actually on the review panel.
Oh, wow.
Said something very interesting to me afterwards, not during it. He said something. He said, I saw the show you directed for Barney, and and they nominated it in the best director category. And I asked them, really, how Barney has gotten a couple of nominations for sound and editing, but never for
Director, yeah.
And he said quizzically, but also he said, well, it just didn't seem like a Barney show to us. And I kind of looked at him and I'm kind of going, oh. And I didn't really get into it because I knew what he was talking about. Because it did have a different feel to it. It was a different kind. I did another show with the illustrator, Tommy DePaulo.
Oh yes.
That was a nice program also. I don't know how well it is. But he was a great children's book writer and illustrator. Still, I mean, I think he's passed away recently, but
yeah,
he's very good. So but celebrity was not part of the Barney thing. They didn't do it much.
right. Yeah,
They did it every so often. Yeah.
Yeah, like every once in a great while.
Riders in the Sky were in Texas anyway. And of course, I think Tommy DePaulo lived in Texas also. So it just took somebody researching it, and or the other thing Sesame Street used to do is they had a department that would pay attention to when stars were going to be in town, and they would try to book them.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean R.E.M. I don't think R.E.M. flew in to do the Sesame Show. I think they were good. They were in town, and we asked them if they had a day where they could do this, and they said yes, and we went, yay! So, yeah, but those are two memorable shows for me, and the Riders in the Sky show had a real. I was very proud that we were, and it was really funny. That year, that year I was nominated for 2 Emmy Awards, one for Barney and one for Sesame Street, and I didn't win either. So that was the one time.
Cool.
That's the one time that the odds were the best.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Only I was able to cop one later on, but
Yeah.
I think I was part of the directing team nominated for about 7 Emmys for Sesame Street. So,
wow,
it's fun to get nominated, but it really was fun to win.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so now you touched up on this a bit earlier, but after working on the 4th and 5th seasons, you returned several years later to work on like the last 3. What was it like getting to come back and work on like a different set and with a different group of people than before?
Well, you got to remember, I've been brought back before to do videos, also home videos. So I think I did at least 3 seasons. I think I did 4, 5, and 6, but it seemed endless to me because I kept coming back once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm listed because IMDb never lists these things properly, and I don't really remember.
Yeah.
No,
we've had trouble with that in the past.
We've had trouble with that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, unless you know that the person you're interviewing has made the submissions to IMDb, it's hard to get on there.
Yeah.
Take the initiative to do it, which Sesame Street always does.
Yeah.
But Barney, I don't think they had the mind to even then, because they just didn't care. They were in their own little pocket in Dallas, and I think they really, they had an international audience, and they were very proud of that. That they did with not a lot of industry support, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay. But at any rate, you adjust. There's always something different. When you're hired, I've been freelance my entire career. When you're hired to direct, there's certain things that are constant. But things are done differently every place. Everybody comes up with their own scheme. Barney was voiceovered live to tape.
Yeah.
Which made complete sense because you could get away with it because the lip flap on the dino is vital.
Yeah.
So as long as you kind of make it work, it was fine. Once in a while, we'd say that really didn't look like he was saying that, but very rare. Bob and Patty and
Julie.
damn, Julie, I'm sorry if you hear this. Um,
No worries.
um, no worries for you.
Oh my
Um, the yeah, the system was extraordinarily well oiled, and actually continued that way. And I think Julian Patton did it all the way to the end almost. I don't. I think they
Yeah.
went-
Yeah, oh yeah.
Bob quit and then was taken over by a couple of voices. Barney was given a couple of different voice.
By
Yeah,
Tim
but
Dever,
yeah,
and
but
then he went.
yeah.
I think also the nature of Barney changed quite a bit when Bob left and when
And then David Joyner,
Joyner.
David Joyner, yeah. Harry
Joyner
Stinson.
was like a freakish Barney because David was a football player in college and he had thighs that were as big as your waist.
Wow.
And so he could do a 3-foot vertical leap from a standing position in the costume, which was unbearably heavy and oppressive to be in that costume. When I first came to the show, and this is one of the things directors do if they're really crazy, I got into the suit.
Yeah.
See what, and I was screaming inside, "Get me out of this!" It's
Oh no!
It was really confining.
Yeah.
Hot right away, and I don't know, but David was such a chill person. I'm really stepping outside of school now. Sorry, all you Barney folks are hearing this. Once in a while, when we would take a break, David didn't want to go through the hassle of getting out of the costume. So he was so used to it and just, it was like nothing to him.
Right.
Sit down on an apple box on the set, on the, in the studio. So you see this, nearly 7-foot character it's actually not purple, it's magenta. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Same. The advertisement's all wrong, saying it's big purple dinosaur. It's actually a big magenta dinosaur.
Magenta.
Originally, it was purple. It was a deep purple, but yeah, even the guy in back, the little plush in back of you, that's magenta, man. Okay, so so David would sit down on this thing, and he was so chill that he would occasionally fall asleep inside the suit while he was sitting on the thing, and you'd be watching. We have footage of this, and you'd be watching him, and all of a sudden Barney would just tip over. Think about that for a second. He'd just tip over, and he needs some help to get back because it's very hard. That costume is not meant to be lying down in. But
right.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I mean, Carrie, who later did Barney, since
he has his own podcast.
Yeah, per Roads, which we still we're going to edit this part out too. We're still planning actually in the future. We're getting Carrie on.
Yeah.
He's got great stories.
Carrie's wonderful.
Wonderful stories. I know that.
Yeah,
they mentioned in the show, so.
I think he was with the
awesome
originally too, so he used to travel as Barney.
Yeah,
he
started with like
he did a lot of that before he was officially cast on the show.
Yeah, and then he started doing birthday parties, and then be on the road, and then actually doing the show between 14. So
know too much about this, okay?
All right, but there is one thing I wanted to bring up because Josh Martin, who was a previous one of our guests, and I've seen that you directed the episode Good Queen Fun, which had an incident on it.
Yeah,
with the popcorn,
which Josh mentioned when we interviewed him. Yeah,
with the popcorn.
That was horrific. I mean, I remember, I'm sitting behind my easel, which is what I have a little. They for the directors, they make these stands that will put like a music stand. So I'm sitting behind the music stand, and and all of a sudden I'm looking over at Barney, and there's smoke coming out of his head, and flash panic. And the first thing, and I remember I told you it's so difficult to get out of that suit, so we had to get him out of that suit quickly.
Right.
I mean, I don't even like to think about what could have happened, but yeah, Barney, there must have been, he must have just caught on fire in there. I don't know exactly what happened, but they have fans in there, and there's all kinds of electrical stuff, so it's not inconceivable that a spark would go. And Josh probably told you the complete story, which I don't think I ever heard, but it was frightening, really frightening.
Yeah, I think he said like what it was the fan that was in the costume malfunctioned.
Yeah. It's all it takes, because it's so tight quarters in there.
Right.
It wouldn't be difficult for a spark to go, and then everything in there is, most likely flammable. So it's like, I don't know, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm sure it sure is quite a tale to hear it from him. So
Yeah.
he made it out, and that was quite an experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on.
Yeah.
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 I forgot to say. So since you worked you're directing in the later Barney after for season 14, we actually did previously got Kyle Nelson and Fred Holmes.
Kyle's,
Yes.
That's right.
Fred is
They're awesome people. They're great friends of ours. So
the directors.
Yes.
Here we got nominated, so we both were in our tuxedos, and it was fun. But yeah, I mean, all the little people are great. I'm still on who am I on Facebook with? The first Baby Bop and BJ.
Jeff Ayers.
Jeff Ayers.
I think
Oh,
so.
Jeff. The other's name is Jeff too, I think.
Jeff Brooks.
I'm Jeff Brooks. Jeff Brooks. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
And then I've seen Kyle is on there. I've seen Kyle on there, and
We had on
Yes.
Yeah.
Twice actually. We had Kyle on twice.
twice. Yeah.
Yes.
The only guest has been on twice so far.
Mhm.
Yes.
what another experience that was to just work with these guys. And Lauren Mayhew became Baby Bop later. She's
Mhm.
Facebook friends also, and she was wonderful after Jeff left. But it's all the folks are I mean, I'm still friends with people who were costume wranglers, and Bob LaValle and I are Facebook friends, and if I gotta go back to Dallas at some point and visit everybody, but it's been years. It's like a opportunity.
That'd be nice. Have like a little reunion.
I'd love to
Yeah.
have a Barney show reunion. I don't know. You'd have to convince somebody that it wasn't, who could pay for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would be a wonderful thing. But if I ever go off frame, I haven't passed out. I have a tendency to travel. So, but that would be fun.
Yes.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Topic.
Yes.
Yeah. Now here's an interesting question. Do you think a Barney and Friends revival or reboot would work today?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
I don't think the industry would do it. However, you did hear about the film that's being made, or it's going to be.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's in production. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that did Get Out, the actor, and did
Mm-hmm.
he's got a thing for Barney, and he optioned it to create a movie. I have no idea what's going on. It's very hush hush. I think Mattel still owns it, but I think they licensed
Yes.
to him to make a film, and he loves children. And I've tried to contact them in England just to say hello and if you want some advice. But I think they have their own thing, what they want to do, but I don't know what it is. So we're all waiting to see.
Yeah.
I would be very interested to see what they come up with. But I think it's cool. Would it work as a series? I don't see why not. I mean, I think that it could be it could definitely. I would not start a series without having original music. So that would
Yeah.
have to be a cost. I know that public domain is inexpensive to do, but and you know when you sell a video that's done from a public domain song, you're not really paying residuals to anyone. It's just free. So, but I think that the show could use some better and more diverse music. But I think all these things are correctable. I would like a different kind of character. I'd almost like to see a more, it's hard to say, it's hard to talk against this because when you look at the big puppets on Yo Gabba Gabba, you look at the big.
Oh yeah, great show. Yeah. Speaking of Yo Gabba Gabba, we actually did a while back we previously interviewed one of the creators, aka Scott Schultz. So
show.
So great show too.
Scott won't mind. I don't know Scott, but I have this very interesting thing up in the corner of my desktop that I keep there all the time. It's been there for years. And when I was talking to people about who wanted to do a children's show, you can go crazy and do something really interesting and really just that no one else is doing. But if you keep the basic concept simple. So what I have is years ago, I had somebody send me, who was working on Yo Gabba Gabba, a list of their program titles for every show in I think it was 1 or 2 seasons. Looks like 2 seasons. So, and I'll read it to you real quickly, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure.
So, eat, summer, fun, sleep, happy, friends, careful, scary, Halloween, greetings, move, together, Christmas, car, share, find, train, love, imagine, home, mystery, dance, trees, pets, history, future, pretend, lazy, water, countries, paint. And I was so blown away by that because when you watch the show, they would take those simple concepts and split them out into 4 very related segments, but they all ultimately had to do with fun or sleep or sheep or sleep, sorry. And they were amazing to me how they did that. And I think it's very important that they distilled it in their own minds down to that one word, which you can see plays through every single segment. I mean, every single segment of that show, and they might disagree with me, but I thought every single segment of that show was perfect, absolutely perfect. And I'm thrilled right now that they're remaking it. Not remaking it, they're starting it again.
Definitely.
And that's a great show. I think pound for pound, I think that show is one of the best ever made. I love Yo Gabba Gabba.
And it is a really good show.
People look and go, well, I had that, the guy with the orange afro, and it was a little weird to me. Well, yeah, but look at the soul, the guts of the show. The guts of the show was that kind of simplicity, and those segments were brilliant. And each of them had an original song in it.
Right, yeah.
But also, you mentioned that it was weird, but what children's show isn't a little bit weird?
You want to have a little weird. I mean, Barney was a little weird in its own way.
I mean, yeah.
Can we get real here?
Exactly.
Big purple.
Sesame Street
dinosaur.
Yeah,
they're all
even Sesame Street had its moments too.
They're all a little weird, but I do think I think that this show, and I this may be blasphemous to say, I'm sorry, but this show The only other show that I think is remotely similar, and when I say remotely, I don't mean it was in any way inferior, but was A Bear in the Big Blue House.
Oh
Was
Oh
yeah.
yeah, amazing show.
Had these crazy, weird little animal characters. It had this grounded character, Bear, who would talk.
Mhm.
Yeah, Noah McNeil. He's
You may
amazing.
have put Fred Rogers in a suit. I mean, Noel, what's his last
McNeil.
Noel McNeil is just an amazing actor. And
Yeah, he's done lots of stuff too.
Mhm.
That's
also,
really
by the way, he's also doing some directing on Sesame Street now.
right.
Yeah,
He's
Yeah,
a
which
very
is awesome.
talented man, and known him through the years. But that was another show that I felt hit a high mark.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It did, but these shows, were all kind of birthed because Sesame Street started something with children's programming. It started to make it valid to spend a lot of money on it. But those shows are really great. And now I think one of the best puppet shows on television, if not the best, is Don Quixote with our old friends.
Oh yes.
That is simple. It is simply done, but the way David approaches it, and David directs those, the way he approaches it is perfect. It's like the perfect show. When I was watching it, I'm going, wow. And what a funny name, Don Quixote. I mean, it's a great name with a double entendre that kids don't get, but adults will, and it's cool. I'll watch them together. Donkey and Purple Panda. They're on the screen a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
They're the
Fantastic
best
show,
duo in that show.
but they're so good. And
Yeah. Mhm.
it's the thing again. You're shooting them fairly close up. See how my hands fill the frame? That's how tight it is. That's their heads. And sometimes they're a little bit further back like this, but it's still, you can see their faces, and they whenever they want to look at camera, they can, and it's a spectacular show. So there's a lot of great things out there and have been, just and they're all shows that I just have loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
and on that subject, what was it like working in Iceland on Lazy Town?
Have to be nice. Very interesting show.
Yeah.
It's a great show, but it didn't do well in this country. I think for the same reason Moon and Me, the show I'm doing, or did for BBC, is not doing that well in this country. It's a little weird, a little too weird. Now Teletubbies was very weird, but for some
But
reason,
that seemed to do pretty good in America, though. Still.
Yeah.
but, for some reason Moon and Me didn't, and Lazy Town was very strange. But here's experientially what I learned from that, and also what David Rudman is doing now. David Rudman storyboards the entire show,
Oh
Don
wow.
Quixote, which I think is very important to do, because a lot of us who are directors came from a live switched attitude about puppetry for television. We had 3 cameras and we just cut live, and it saved money in post and all this. But David does that show like a little film, although they're simple shots, but he boards every one, and every shot, every frame is perfect for what it is. That's what we did with Lazy Town. Lazy Town is boarded, and I can't draw to save my life, but what I would, we also boarded Moon and Me all straight through. I think it's a great thing to do with a show if you have the flexibility to shoot it that way. And the desire to go fight for it. Although my sense is that a lot of things you can shoot single camera just as quickly as multi-camera, because they all involve different challenges. But Lazy Town was a blast. I became very close with Mark Valenti, who was the hit writer.
Nice.
And also Stefan, who just died of cancer not long ago.
Yeah, Stephen Carl. Yeah.
Stephen Carl was just devastating, and devastating thing to happen. And there were things about the show that I liked and didn't like. I wish they'd moved in some other directions, but I was with that at the beginning of it. So I was there and I did about 8-9 episodes and that was it. Um, but it was a beautiful show to shoot. It was really fun. The puppeteers were a lot of people that are not really around anymore. Heather Ash was there, however. And one of my closest friends here in Atlanta, well, I'm in Nashville now, but I was just spent 5 years in Atlanta, is Raymond Carr.
Oh yeah, I've heard of the name. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, the name sounds familiar.
Raymond is somebody you definitely you should guys, if he's available, should talk to, because he's had a great career. He's an African-American puppeteer, and he lives in Atlanta, and he's very, very talented, and now he's moving into directing. I just directed a show for actually a Baptist ministry in Atlanta that he formed in for me, and now he's directing. I think he's thinking about directing that show also. So he's just a wonderful guy, very, very articulate about the art of puppetry. And by the way, you should do something with some people at the Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, because you'll expand your audience if you do. And also, it's just a wonderful center for puppetry. They have a beautiful museum area. They do shows there. They bring puppeteers from all over the world in, and it's. I mean, I wish they had something that was that thorough in New York for puppets and puppeteers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
definitely.
So Raymond was a junior when he was on. He was 21 years old when we did Lazy Town.
Oh wow, interesting.
Wow.
That's
cool.
That's cool.
One of my favorite episodes that you directed, I still remember actually, it was the Sweets episode.
Sweets, yes.
Yeah.
It was actually one I did. It was right at the beginning. And that's the one that is my favorite song. And
yeah, will you
Cake
have a cake? That song.
It's a great song.
Yeah,
it's
it's a great
songs
song.
in that show.
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
there's a lot of great songs. And we actually previously had David Matthew Feldman, who did the Puppeteer
Yes.
Mayor.
Still, Mayor means well.
New York, I think. I don't know exactly what he's up to, but he's a very, very fine puppeteer and a sweet guy. Really sweet guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, again, we'll let him know that we spoke to you.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Feldman, sure, you got to do that. Feldman.
Yeah. Yes.
So on Nickelodeon, you also worked with Linda Ellerby on her series Nick News.
Yes.
Nick News.
That fantastic experience. I was with that show 2.5 years, and because it wasn't shot all the time, I could come in and out. So I was fortunate to direct her in studio, and all of her intros and outros. I directed a couple of their specials that were they had a bunch of kids and usually a guest star. And I also produced a couple of stories, or a few stories, for the news itself. So I did a lot of different things for that show. Actually reconnected with Mark Lyons not long ago, who was one of the producers on it. He's still in the New York area. I think he lives up in Connecticut. But really enjoyed that experience. That was a wonderful show. She was an icon in news. She was one of the people who were the original co-hosts of NBC Overnight. So the NBC felt there were people that would be interested in seeing news overnight. And she did the overnight show with a gentleman whose name I forget, but she was the host, and she was CNN, MSNBC, all these Fox, all these news services that run 24 hours. That's when it all started. The whole idea of it started back then, and she was involved in that early on. So she was that was actually probably 10 years before we did the Nick News, even. Maybe even more.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool woman, very smart and very articulate.
And it went on for a long time too.
Won more Emmy Awards. And you know something? It didn't have good ratings. But it won Emmy Awards because it was a quality show, and it was doing
It really was, yeah.
It was doing good work for kids to see, to help disseminate really difficult issues in our culture, and from a news perspective. It wasn't a preschool show, but it was certainly a show that reached children, and it just I can't remember a year that I was there that it wasn't some way nominated for an Emmy or something. So great show.
Really, really is. It really is a great show.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up. That's a little tidbit on my resume that I don't get asked about much. So
Yeah, of course.
A pleasure. So overall, what do you enjoy most about being a director?
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mother told me at one point I was thinking about being a teacher, and she said, "Oh, you'd be a good teacher. You like people." And I said, "Huh, you're right. Collaboration is the best thing I could ever do, is collaborate with all of these creative people, all with with a singular vision. That's the biggest kick about television and film, is you're surrounded with ideas all the time, and how you manage that makes you, I think, a good director or a mediocre director.
Definitely.
In a place like Sesame Street, which is where this was very important, and Barney, and any kid show. If you're not in deep collaboration with all the people who are doing all the things on it, it's not what the experience should be. I think that's what's great about television in general, and film. It's a collaborative medium between a lot of different creative people, and a lot of people that just like doing it because they like to be close to creative people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And those are all valid reasons to be in a career. So that's my favorite part of it. And as soon as it gets to be a drag, can't do it anymore. I won't do it anymore. So
Right.
I have moments sometimes on productions when it's tough. It's tough because no one is on the same page as you are.
Yeah.
Wants to collaborate, or people just are not. That's not how they were raised, or something. I have no idea what it is, and that makes it difficult. But that's it. That's the, and it's fun. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at a 20-year-old intern on a set, and asked them, "Are you having a good time?" He said, "Yeah." And I look at him and I go, "Do you believe they pay us to do this? They pay us money to do this. We make a living doing this." And that's how I feel about it. That's all I can say about it. I have fun. I have fun collaborating with people, creative people, and that's it. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't do it.
Definitely. So, since we're getting close to wrapping up, if people would like to contact you, what's the best place people can find you?
Wow. Well, I would say, I don't know. What do your guests usually say?
Instagram, Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah,
Some
Instagram,
people
Facebook.
say LinkedIn.
So social media.
LinkedIn.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think
Pretty much.
Huh?
What?
Oh, I was just asking what you were saying.
Oh, yeah, I think that I would say Facebook. I mean, I am on Instagram, but I'm not on Instagram enough, and I would hate. Well, here's what I would do. I would make sure that they mention the name of the show before they even say, "Hi, how are you?"
Mhm.
I heard, just because I get a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
mention the show first.
Mhm.
So if they're writing me a note on Facebook, just mention the show, like on Messenger. I'll get it on Messenger, and then I'll certainly answer their questions or connect with them there.
Right.
Facebook, LinkedIn is a little bit crazy because I have more people on LinkedIn, and I'm starting to get a tremendous amount of spam on LinkedIn also.
Interesting. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that your viewers would be spam, but it's just that I've received a whole series of uh, of people who want to connect with me who are beautiful Asian women who want to sell me Bitcoin.
Oh gosh.
That's what's going on.
I get messages. Yeah.
I mean, I'm going.
Yeah,
When I
that
first
goes
saw
too
one,
before.
Unfortunately, it's normal. It's, I get messages like that on occasion.
Yeah.
Even on places like Instagram, it's just, it happens. But
I'm getting that, but I get it on Instagram also. That's why I was,
yeah.
because Instagram would be better. But see, on Instagram, I'm not necessarily there every day.
Mhm.
I would say Facebook or Instagram would be okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and
All right.
links to those two will be in the description for people to connect with you. And so Matthew, why don't you take us out with the last question? This is a question that we ask all our guests at the end.
And of course, this podcast is called Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show. When you think of nostalgia, what do you think of, or how do you find the word define the word nostalgia?
Okay. I love the word nostalgia, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Are any of you guys Jewish by any chance?
No.
No.
So you're going to get your first Yiddish lesson. Okay. Okay. Nostalgia for me has always sounded, has the same kind of feeling. It's like a soft feeling, nostalgia. It's not nostalgia. It's not, it's the ST is soft. All the sounds in it are soft. And because it refers about feeling warm and fuzzy about another time in your life, I love that. But the reason I really love it is because it reminds me of a Yiddish word, and David Feldman will appreciate this. It reminds me of a Yiddish word called kvel. So they take a K and a V and they run it together at the beginning. Kvel. It should be pronounced kovel, but it's kvel. Kvel. And that word is usually expressed by someone who's looking at their child.
Mm-hmm.
They have a feeling of deep love, pride, and just gratefulness that this is their child. And what do people call that? They say you're kvelling of your child. So it's not just I'm proud of my child. It's not just I love my child.
Right.
Like I'm kvelling of my child. My child is, it's like it becomes another level of love and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, nostalgia means that I'm going to get I have a higher sense of love and understanding for things that have happened or I've experienced in my past.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. So this part will,
yeah, great words.
yes. Well, Steve, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. This is a long conversation, but it was a fun
It was
one.
Very well worth
very lots of laughs, lots of conversation.
Yeah, Steve, it was a pleasure for being here. I'm glad that we finally make it happen, and
Yeah.
thank you for what you've done, for being part of our childhoods, and keep up your great work, and see what's next for you.
Thank you for having me. It's been really great doing this. I had no idea what it was going to be about, but it's great. And good luck with your podcast, and I'll definitely check it out myself. So.
Yeah, and I'll
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
message you. I think we're also Facebook friends, so I'll message you when the interview goes up.
I think I'm Facebook friends with you too. I think, yeah.
All right.
Why don't we just as a matter of fact, so you guys
Or I can email you too. I keep forgetting that.
do the same thing. What that I told your viewers to do. Just mention the podcast at the front end. If I'm not friends with you on Facebook yet, I'll be it'll be like quick. I don't have to think. I'll just do it. So,
Okay.
Well, but anyways, thank you, Steve, for being a guest, and
thank you again, Steve. Thank you.
Yes, for all our viewers and listeners, this brings another wonderful interview of Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show to a close. I absolutely enjoyed our time with Steve Feldman, and until next time, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye, everybody.
Keep nostalgia alive. Take care, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another wonderful Jake's Happy Nostalgia Show interview. Be sure to follow Jake and the crew on social media and stream the show wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And as always, remember to keep nostalgia alive. Bye-bye.